everyone, and on behalf of the Edinburgh Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to welcome you all to this morning's Scotland Urban Age 2 Shock to the System report launch event. I'm Joanne Davidson, and I'm Director of Policy at the Edinburgh Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here this morning on behalf of our Chief Executive, Liz McAreavey, who unfortunately can't be with us and so sends her apologies. It's really lovely to have you all with us this morning and see so many of you here in person, and a big thank you especially to our host Brodie's for lending us your magnificent office for this event. This is a spectacular setting, as I'm sure that you'll agree, and much more civilised than only seeing necks and shoulders on a Zoom or Teams screen. It will certainly make a welcome change for me as host this morning, not to have to tell anyone that they're on mute. And I know that we're in for a hugely interesting and insightful session and discussion today as we take you through the findings of this report. Before I introduce our speakers and panellists this morning, I thought it would be useful to give you some context. In early 2021, Aberdeen, Glasgow and Edinburgh Chambers of Commerce began working with our partners Brodie's, Anderson Brown and the research team from Glasgow School of Art on a new report looking at the role that Scotland's three principal city regions, Aberdeen, Glasgow and Edinburgh, the age cities, have to play in driving the country's economic recovery and the policy direction, conditions and support from government at all levels that is needed to enable them to succeed. This report is the sequel to Scotland's Urban Age 1, or Scotland's Urban Age as it was called at the time, not realising there would be a sequel, which was first published in 2018 that examined what was going well, what was not, and recommended a series of strategic ideas, interventions and actions aimed at enabling the three cities to become leading players on the global stage. It concluded that the available evidence shows that the age cities will be the key drivers of the economy, accounting for 80% of Scotland's future economic growth, and that if they are performing well, the spin-off benefits to other towns, cities and rural areas are clear. The report that we are formally launching in Edinburgh this morning considers what has changed in light of the pandemic and the accelerating net zero carbon agenda, what hasn't regarding the ability of our principal cities to deliver on their ambitions, and what's new. It also highlights the role of local, Scottish and UK government, the business community and our citizens in realising their potential, and underlines the contribution that these three great cities, with their long and distinguished histories, rich architectural heritage, as we can see for ourselves today, and distinctive cultures make. Specifically, the three age cities together occupy just 0.8% of the land area of mainland Scotland, but account for 25.5% of the population, 37.6% of employment, and 39.3% of GVA, which rises to 72.8% when city regions are factored in. The report has been extensively researched and authored by a team led by Professor Brian Adams from Glasgow Urban Lab. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Brian, who will take you through some key highlights of the report, and also to introduce you to the rest of our speakers and panellists today. Brian is Professor of Urbanism and Landscape at the Mackintosh School of Architecture, the Glasgow School of Art, and Director of the Glasgow Urban Laboratory. In 2019, he was invited to become Glasgow's City Urbanist, an independent civic role acting as strategic advisor on place, design and the city, with a local, national and international perspective. He is an advisor to the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe on the future of cities and the implementation of the new urban agenda. He was previously Artistic Professor of Urban Design and Planning at Chalmers School of Architecture in Gothenburg, and from 1990 to 2015 was a partner with Gillespie LLP, the international design practice where he developed the disciplines of landscape planning and urban design and pioneered ecological urbanism. And as one of the main authors of the report, really couldn't be in better hands this morning. Following Brian's presentation, we'll hear from Richard White, partner at Brodie's, our fellow collaborators on this project and our generous host today. Richard leads Brodie's real estate investment team, working at the forefront of the investment market, both in the core and alternative markets. He's one of the best known names in Scottish real estate, having built his name acting for UK and overseas investors on some of the highest profile transactions over the last 15 years. Richard is also an expert in development work, particularly on assets primed for sale to the investment market. He sits on the Scottish board of the Investment Property Forum. Following Richard, we'll hear from another of our collaborators, Mark Bell from Anderson Brown Consulting. Mark has led some of the largest and most innovative economic development assignments over the last 10 years. He leads multidisciplinary teams collaborating across the private sector and public sector to support business growth across the UK and Europe. He brings his expertise and insight to the design of business growth programmes, advises the government on regional and sectoral growth strategies, and supports clients in their approaches to economic development. And also joining us on the panel is another of the report's co-authors, Mark Robertson, Managing Partner at Rydon. Mark is responsible for leading Rydon's business plan across the firm's offices and business group. He is a leading authority on Scotland's property markets and has delivered more than 300 consultancy projects, as well as publishing the authoritative Scottish Property Review. His market analysis and advice underpinned major areas across Scotland. His industry board positions include the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, the Scottish Property Federation and FCDI. Mark particularly enjoys change aspects and working with new industry entrants when teaching MSc Property Investment Appraisal at Edinburgh Napier University. So before I hand over to Brian to take us off, just a couple of points on format. Just a reminder that we are recording the session today, so please bear that in mind. We'll hear from our speakers in turn, and then we'll open the floor to questions, comments, thoughts and discussion. We're not expecting any fire alarms today, so if it goes off, it's real. Lee and Lorna from Brodie's will show you where to go in the event of that situation. And just again, a final point from me, we'd just like to make the sessions interactive as possible, so please do join in the conversation after our speakers have spoken. And now I'm going to hand over to Brian. Thank you, Brian.